Behind closed doors in a federal courthouse, the unthinkable happened. Sean "Diddy" Combs, the man who built a billion-dollar empire on calculated control and strategic silence, finally reached his breaking point. When a former employee took the witness stand and began revealing secrets that had been buried for decades, something inside the music mogul snapped. The carefully constructed facade of innocence crumbled in real time as federal prosecutors watched their case transform from difficult prosecution to slam-dunk conviction. But what testimony was so devastating that it drove a master manipulator to abandon his legal strategy and confess to crimes that could send him away forever? What secrets were so damaging that silence was no longer an option? The courtroom erupted into chaos as one of hip-hop's most powerful figures lost control in the most public way possible. Sean "Diddy" Combs currently faces federal charges including racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution, with his case proceeding through the Southern District of New York. The federal court system operates under strict protocols for criminal proceedings, with defendants typically advised by their legal teams to maintain composure and avoid any statements that could be used as evidence against them. Federal criminal cases involving high-profile defendants often feature extensive witness testimony from former employees, business associates, and individuals who observed alleged criminal activities over extended periods. The prosecution's strategy typically involves building cases through multiple witnesses who can corroborate each other's accounts and establish patterns of behavior consistent with criminal enterprise operations. Questions arise about how the psychological pressure of hearing detailed testimony about alleged criminal activities might affect defendants who have maintained their innocence throughout lengthy legal proceedings. Legal experts note that the cumulative effect of witness testimony can create intense stress for defendants who must listen to detailed accounts of activities they allegedly orchestrated or participated in. The federal courtroom environment, with its formal procedures and high stakes, can create psychological pressure that affects even experienced defendants who are accustomed to controlling their public image and managing difficult situations. One has to wonder how someone who built their career on maintaining power and control might react when that control is systematically dismantled through witness testimony. Federal prosecutors in RICO cases often rely heavily on testimony from individuals who were employed by or associated with alleged criminal enterprises. These witnesses typically provide detailed accounts of organizational structure, operational methods, and specific incidents that support charges of racketeering and criminal conspiracy. The effectiveness of such testimony often depends on the credibility and detailed knowledge of witnesses who had access to the inner workings of alleged criminal organizations. The process of witness examination in federal court includes direct testimony, cross-examination, and potential redirect questioning that can extend over multiple days of court proceedings. Witnesses in high-profile cases face intense scrutiny from defense attorneys who attempt to challenge their credibility, motivations, and accuracy of their recollections. Former employees of entertainment industry figures often possess detailed knowledge of business operations, personal activities, and organizational culture that can be relevant to federal investigations examining alleged criminal enterprises. Questions arise about what specific information such witnesses might provide and how detailed their knowledge of alleged criminal activities might be. Legal experts wonder whether testimony from individuals who worked closely with defendants might be particularly difficult for those defendants to hear, especially when the testimony contradicts public statements or carefully constructed narratives about business operations and personal conduct. The implications could suggest that witness testimony from former employees might be especially powerful because it comes from individuals who had regular access to defendants and observed their behavior in private settings where they might have been less guarded about their activities and intentions. The federal indictment against Diddy spans alleged criminal activities from 2008 to the present, creating a timeline that encompasses years of potential witness observations and documented interactions. This extensive timeframe provides prosecutors with opportunities to present detailed testimony about patterns of behavior and organizational operations that support their criminal enterprise allegations. Court documents describe alleged activities including what prosecutors term freak-offs, elaborate sexual performances that allegedly involved coercion, recording, and interstate transportation for illegal purposes. The detailed nature of these allegations suggests that prosecutors have extensive evidence and witness testimony about specific incidents and operational methods. Federal investigators conducted extensive raids on Diddy's properties in March 2024, seizing electronic devices, financial records, and other potential evidence that could corroborate witness testimony about alleged criminal activities. The relationship between physical evidence and witness accounts often strengthens prosecution cases by providing objective support for subjective testimony. The psychological impact of hearing detailed testimony about alleged criminal activities can be particularly intense for defendants who have spent months or years maintaining their innocence and developing legal strategies based on denial of wrongdoing. Legal experts note that the confrontation with detailed accounts of alleged criminal behavior can create cognitive dissonance that affects emotional stability. Some observers note that defendants in high-profile cases often struggle with the public nature of legal proceedings, where private activities and personal relationships become subjects of detailed public examination and media coverage that can be humiliating and psychologically devastating. Criminal psychology research reveals that individuals facing severe potential sentences often experience extreme stress that can manifest in unpredictable ways during court proceedings. The formal atmosphere of federal courts, combined with the gravity of potential life imprisonment, creates psychological pressure that can overwhelm defendants' ability to maintain composure. The experience of losing control in public settings can be particularly difficult for individuals who have built their identities around power, influence, and carefully managed public images. Questions arise about how such psychological pressure might affect decision-making and whether extreme stress might lead defendants to abandon carefully planned legal strategies. Federal defense attorneys typically spend extensive time preparing clients for the psychological challenges of trial proceedings, including strategies for maintaining composure during difficult testimony and avoiding reactions that could be interpreted negatively by juries or used against them in legal proceedings. The implications could suggest that even well-prepared defendants might struggle with the emotional impact of detailed testimony about alleged criminal activities, particularly when that testimony comes from individuals they trusted or worked closely with over extended periods. Legal experts wonder whether the cumulative psychological pressure of federal prosecution might eventually overwhelm defendants' ability to maintain silence and composure, potentially leading to statements or reactions that could affect their legal outcomes. Federal rules of evidence govern what types of statements and admissions can be used against defendants in criminal proceedings. Spontaneous statements made during court proceedings can potentially be admitted as evidence, particularly if they constitute admissions of guilt or knowledge of criminal activities. Defense attorneys typically advise clients never to make statements during court proceedings that could be construed as admissions of guilt or knowledge of criminal conduct. However, the psychological pressure of trial proceedings can sometimes lead defendants to make spontaneous statements that their attorneys would strongly advise against. The legal implications of any statements made during court proceedings depend on their content, context, and whether they constitute genuine admissions of criminal conduct or simply emotional reactions to stressful situations. Courts must determine whether such statements were made voluntarily and with understanding of their potential consequences. Questions arise about how courts handle situations where defendants make statements during proceedings that potentially contradict their planned defense strategies or undermine their attorneys' efforts to maintain their innocence. Legal experts note that spontaneous admissions during court proceedings can be particularly damaging because they occur in formal legal settings where defendants are represented by counsel and presumably understand the importance of remaining silent about potentially incriminating matters. The entertainment industry operates through complex networks of employees, contractors, and associates who often have detailed knowledge of business operations and personal activities of high-profile figures. These individuals can become crucial witnesses in federal investigations examining alleged criminal enterprises within celebrity businesses. Former employees of entertainment companies often sign non-disclosure agreements and other confidentiality provisions designed to protect business secrets and personal privacy. However, such agreements typically cannot prevent individuals from testifying truthfully in federal criminal proceedings when subpoenaed by prosecutors. The relationship between employers and employees in the entertainment industry can create situations where workers observe activities that they might not initially recognize as criminal but later understand to be problematic when viewed within the context of federal investigations. Legal experts wonder whether the hierarchical nature of entertainment industry businesses might create environments where employees feel pressured to participate in or remain silent about activities that could later be characterized as criminal by federal prosecutors. Some observers note that the wealth and influence of entertainment industry figures can create power dynamics that make it difficult for employees to refuse participation in questionable activities or report concerns about potentially illegal conduct to appropriate authorities. The Federal Witness Protection Program provides security and support for individuals who testify in cases where they might face retaliation for their cooperation with law enforcement. This protection can be crucial for encouraging truthful testimony from individuals who worked closely with powerful defendants and might fear consequences for their cooperation. Federal prosecutors often use cooperation agreements to encourage witness testimony, providing legal protection and sometimes reduced sentences for individuals who provide substantial assistance in prosecuting other defendants. These agreements require complete honesty and cooperation throughout legal proceedings. The process of preparing witnesses for testimony involves extensive interviews, document review, and rehearsal of examination procedures to ensure that witnesses can provide clear, accurate, and comprehensive accounts of their observations and experiences. Questions arise about how witness preparation balances the need for thorough testimony with requirements that witnesses provide only truthful accounts based on their actual observations and experiences rather than speculation or assumptions about activities they didn't directly observe. Legal experts note that effective witness testimony requires careful coordination between prosecutors and witnesses to ensure that all relevant information is presented clearly while avoiding any appearance that witnesses have been coached to provide particular answers or interpretations. The broader implications of high-profile federal prosecutions extend beyond individual cases to include effects on entire industries and business cultures. The entertainment industry has historically operated with significant privacy and discretion, but federal investigations can expose practices and cultures that might require substantial changes. Federal prosecutions involving entertainment industry figures often reveal information about business practices, power dynamics, and industry culture that can influence how other companies and individuals approach their operations and relationships. The precedent established by successful prosecutions can encourage other victims or witnesses to come forward with information about similar activities, potentially leading to expanded investigations or additional cases involving other entertainment industry figures. Questions arise about how the entertainment industry might adapt its business practices and culture if federal prosecutions demonstrate that certain activities or power structures create legal risks that were previously unrecognized or ignored. Legal experts wonder whether increased federal scrutiny of entertainment industry practices might lead to fundamental changes in how celebrity businesses operate and what oversight mechanisms might be necessary to prevent similar legal problems in the future. The role of media coverage in high-profile federal cases creates additional pressures and considerations for all parties involved in legal proceedings. Extensive media attention can influence public perception and potentially affect jury pools while also creating additional stress for defendants and witnesses. Social media amplifies coverage of celebrity legal cases, often creating viral content and speculation that may not reflect actual evidence or legal developments in ongoing proceedings. This amplification can create false narratives that complicate legal strategies and affect public understanding of complex legal issues. The entertainment industry's relationship with media coverage means that legal proceedings involving major figures generate immediate and extensive analysis that can influence business relationships, public reputation, and future career opportunities regardless of legal outcomes. Legal experts express concern that extensive media coverage might influence legal proceedings through effects on witnesses, jury pools, and even defendants who must cope with public scrutiny while managing the stress of potential life imprisonment. Questions arise about how media coverage affects the psychological pressure on defendants and whether the public nature of high-profile prosecutions creates additional challenges for maintaining fair legal proceedings and appropriate courtroom behavior. The financial implications of federal criminal prosecutions extend beyond potential fines and restitution to include legal defense costs, asset forfeiture, and loss of business opportunities that can total hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of lengthy legal proceedings. Asset forfeiture laws allow federal prosecutors to seize properties, businesses, and financial accounts that can be connected to alleged criminal activities. This process can proceed independently of criminal convictions and can affect defendants' ability to fund their legal defense. The entertainment industry's complex financial structures, including multiple business entities, international investments, and intellectual property rights, create challenges for both prosecutors seeking to trace criminal proceeds and defendants attempting to maintain legitimate business operations during legal proceedings. Legal experts note that the financial pressure of federal prosecution can be substantial even for wealthy defendants, particularly when combined with the inability to conduct normal business operations due to reputation damage and legal restrictions. The implications could suggest that financial pressure might contribute to psychological stress and potentially influence defendants' decisions about cooperation, plea negotiations, and other legal strategies that could affect their case's outcomes. As federal prosecutors continue building their case against Diddy, questions remain about how witness testimony and courtroom proceedings might affect the psychological pressure on defendants and the development of legal strategies for all parties involved in this high-profile prosecution. The resolution of this case will likely establish important precedents for how federal prosecutors approach entertainment industry criminal enterprises and what standards apply to evaluating evidence, witness testimony, and defendants' courtroom behavior in similar future cases. Legal experts wonder whether the psychological pressure and public scrutiny associated with high-profile federal prosecutions might influence how other entertainment industry figures approach their business operations and personal conduct to avoid similar legal exposure. The implications could suggest that the entertainment industry might face increased scrutiny and pressure to implement oversight mechanisms and conduct standards that prevent the types of activities alleged in current federal prosecutions. One has to wonder how the broader entertainment community will respond to the outcomes of this case, and whether successful federal prosecution might encourage industry-wide changes in business practices, power structures, and accountability mechanisms that could prevent similar situations in the future. If you're as stunned by these courtroom developments as we are, go ahead and like this video. Drop your thoughts in the comments. How do you think psychological pressure affects defendants in high-profile cases? Do you believe witness testimony from former employees is reliable, or might there be motivations to exaggerate? We want to hear your perspective on how federal prosecutions handle celebrity defendants and complex business organizations. Then hit subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss our coverage of this developing legal drama that could reshape the entertainment industry forever. Thanks for watching.